Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into some really powerful stories from Islamic tradition. And these aren't just your average tales. They're designed to hit you right in the heart.
So let's just start with a question. Have you ever wondered what gives a story real power? The power to get under your skin, maybe even change the way you see everything? Well, today we're looking at a collection of stories that were literally designed to do just that. The source material for this explainer actually calls them heart-wrenching tales. The whole point was to shape the listener's character. So let's dive in and see what they've got for us. All right, first up, the currency of love. This section explores stories of profound devotion. And right away, the big idea here is that love and devotion, well, they're measured on a completely different scale than, say, money or possessions. So to really get what true devotion is, the first story kind of shows us what it isn't. Picture this. You're at this huge, lavish feast thrown by the caliph, and there's this high-ranking governor strutting around in this incredible robe, a personal gift from the caliph himself. He's a big deal. So in the middle of all this, the governor gets a tickle in his nose, and without even thinking, he just grabs the corner of this priceless robe and uses it as a tissue. I mean, can you imagine? Of course, the caliph sees the whole thing, and he is furious. He stands up and basically says, "You have disrespected the royal robe." Right there in front of everyone, he's publicly shamed and stripped of his rank. Just like that. Done. Okay, so that's a story about misplaced value, right? But the book immediately follows it up with another story to show us what real spiritual devotion looks like. And this is where you really see the contrast. We're shifting from the value of things to the value of something much, much deeper. And check out this comparison. It just lays it all out so perfectly. You've got disrespect versus devotion. The governor, who doesn't value this incredible gift, gets publicly shamed. His life is ruined. But then on the other side, you have a companion who values his teacher's presence so much that for every single footstep his teacher takes to visit him, he frees a slave. Think about that. Not one slave, but one for each step. That's what these stories call the real currency of love. It's not about what you have, it's about what you value. Okay, let's move on to our next section, knowledge worn with humility, when the greatest minds bow the lowest. And this one's built around a really interesting idea, almost a paradox. The more you know, the humbler you should be. So, here's the story. We meet this great scholar, Shaikhul Hind, and he's got this huge, monumental task in front of him. But he feels totally lost, completely overwhelmed, because his teacher, his mentor, has passed away. He just doesn't know how to move forward without that guidance. So the question is, what does a brilliant mind like his do when his mentor is gone? I mean, he could just rely on his own expertise, right? He's a great scholar. But no, what he does next is it's a masterclass in humility. Get this. First, he goes to his late master's house. Then he asks the family for his master's old shoes, worn out, probably falling apart, and then he places those shoes on his own head. And he prays to God for help, using the shoes as the symbol of connection. I mean, wow. For him, those shoes weren't just leather. They were the path his teacher walked. And putting them on his head, that's him saying, "I am nothing. I am still a student sitting at your feet." Just an incredible act of submission. And that idea of humility, of placing something higher than yourself, leads us perfectly into what might be the most powerful lesson in this whole collection. It's all about the weight of intention, or why you do something is way more important than what you do. Okay, so the main story here is about this really devout guy. He sees that people in his town have started worshiping a particular tree, and he thinks, nope, this is wrong. This is not for God. So he grabs his axe and he heads out to chop it down. And it's super important to know, his intention, his motive is totally pure. He's doing this as a righteous act. But on his way, he gets confronted by this old man who is actually Satan in disguise. Satan tries to stop him, and when they can't agree, things get physical. They start to fight. And here's the crazy part. Because the man's intention is so pure, he's filled with this almost superhuman strength. He just grabs Satan and boom, throws him to the ground, pins him easily. He's completely unconquerable. So, Satan, defeated, realizes he can't win by force. So he changes tactics. He offers the man a deal. He says, look, just leave the tree alone, and every morning you'll find gold coins under your pillow. And the man, he agrees. He takes the deal. And right there, his pure intention starts to get corrupted. So, for a couple of days, sure enough, the gold is there. But then, It stops. And the man is enraged, not for God, but for his money. So he grabs his axe and marches right back to that tree, furious about his own personal loss. And who does he meet on the path again? Satan. But this time, Satan isn't worried. He just looks at the man and says, "This time, you're not gonna win." And he's absolutely right. They fight again. But this time, the man is thrown to the ground like he's nothing. He's completely powerless. So the story leaves us with this big question, right? The man was the same. The axe was the same. The tree was the same. So what changed? Why was he so strong the first time and so weak the second? And the answer is simple, but so profound. The only thing that changed was his intention. In Arabic, it's called niyya. The first time he fought, his anger was for God, and he had this incredible divine support. The second time, his anger was for himself, for his own selfish gain, and that made him weak. It's such a powerful lesson. The why you do something is literally everything. So let's bring it all together. What's the final lesson here? When you look at all these stories, you realize they're not just separate tales. They're weaving together a kind of guide, a framework for how to live a meaningful life. Think about it. We learned that true value, real love, is measured in selfless acts, not in fancy robes. We saw that real knowledge leads to humility, not arrogance, to putting your teacher's shoes on your own head. And finally, that our greatest strength doesn't come from our muscles, but from an intention that is pure, an intention that's not about personal gain. And that really just leaves us with one last thought to chew on, turning the lesson of these stories back on ourselves. If your own life were a story, what would its intention be?